Something that has been on my mind lately is this concept of a parasite. Now, the parasite deals with not only the physical, but also mental, energetic, and spiritual aspects of our reality. If you've watched my videos, you will know that I discuss bad habits a lot of the times. And in my opinion, based off what I've experienced, I think that these parasites, or if you want to call them demonic entities, they hijack our minds and bodies. When we fall victim to, I don't know, alcohol, let's say gluttony, lustful activities, laziness, sloth. When we fall into these patterns that kind of just destroy us, that bring us to a low frequency and keep us in that state where we cannot operate at a high level. Now, there's also the family aspect to consider, or just people you're close with. If they struggle with something, so there are various things. Substance abuse is definitely one. So let's just use that as an example. If someone close to you deals with the substance abuse, or if it runs within a family or a group of people, and they all kind of struggle with this, it may have an impact on you because you don't want to see them like that. And you may be negatively affected by them experiencing it. And it could be in a different way. You may never drink alcohol ever, but something that I've noticed is that if someone close to you does, let's say they do struggle with alcohol, you may struggle with lust, you may struggle with laziness, you may struggle with not finding a purpose or a reason to keep going. You may fall just into that sadness, and that sadness, it just ripple effects into more laziness and lust, and these lower forms. Gluttony is another. This parasite is something to think about. The goal is to prevent it, because we know how it feels when we fall into lower forms of behavior. And I'm also convinced that what I just described when it comes to these so-called behaviors, patterns of behaviors, lust, gluttony, and sloth, these are what people fall into when they are isolated, when they are disconnected from family, close friends, communities, groups of people. This is what you're likely to fall into when you're just all alone. Separation leads to a lot of this, like too much separation to the point where you're fractured, you're fragmented away from from communities, from family. So we look at the world, we see the issues that various people struggle with, and we can identify reasons for these behaviors, and we can also make that connection. When those who are closest to us struggle, we may struggle in a different way, in a unique way. Consider these things that I'm trying to express, because these are things that they just came to my mind from what I've experienced. Through these things that I'm going through, I'm just doing my best to express some of the pain and the tribulations that have occurred navigating my way through difficult circumstances. You know, obviously being outside is a good thing because when you're outside, you're connecting with something that goes beyond that comfort. It goes beyond that nest. If you think of cancer and astrology, there's that connection to the parasite because when a cancer grows, it infests the body. It deals with the disease. It deals with problems with health. This parasite growing and causing all kinds of problems to the body. But the mental and energetic aspect, you got to also consider that. Parasites, man. These exist within our system. And the more that I think about this and ponder, I can't emphasize it enough. It's a difficult thing to deal with, man. It really is. And I don't know, I like to get sunlight when it's out, like it's a good day. I like to be around trees. This seems to help. I enjoy fresh air to breathe. It's another thing. You've got to educate others on what's going on. That's why I do make these videos, and I try my best to explain these concepts to others, whether it's in person or through methods like this, like making videos. But yeah, parasites are problematic in this world. Falling into lust, falling into gluttony and sloth. So lust is essentially a power struggle. It's like you want power, you want to experience that sexual gratification. It's usually instant, short term. And gluttony is you're indulging in all these drinks, like alcohol can be one, eating too much of what is not going to be good for you. You just go overboard to the point where it's going to hurt you. And then sloth, you're just being lazy. You're not moving. You're not working towards your goal. You're staying still and stagnant. These are all the lower chakras. They represent the patterns of behaviors of that each chakra of the lower regions depict. And then when you go up, you get the heart. When you deal with more envy. These are once you get beyond the lower chakras, you get to the heart, which is more of the center. At that point, you're not dealing with as much physical behaviors that are detrimental to you. These are more mental, these are more spiritual, but they're still going to be problematic, like envy. You can deal with problems with others, and that's another thing. They deal with more of the, not as much personal, just you experiencing these behaviors, but it's connected to others now. Envy, you don't like to see someone do something that you can't. They have something that you would like to have, but you don't have it. As you go up, you get greed, anger, and pride. These are just out of place, and you're out of alignment. But just consider those three lower ones that I talked about. When you're getting too lazy and lustful, gluttonous. Sometimes if you see others struggle who are close to you, it's going to be that right there could cause you to struggle in your own way. Just be mindful of that, because you may not realize that it's happening. You may not realize the effect that, someone close to you is having on yourself. You may feel their pain and their struggle, and you may not know how to cope with it. So at that point, you may turn to lust yourself. You may turn to being lazy, feeling like you don't want to do anything, being slothful or gluttonous. And at that point, you gotta go beyond that. You gotta realize the pattern. And if a member of your family or someone close to you is struggling with something, then be that guide for them. Show them the way, and do not allow that parasite within them that's infecting them. Do not allow that to overcome, your body, your mind, because that's what it is. It's hijacking your body. I've heard that, when someone's lustful, it's a demon or a parasite that's just hijacking you. And like I said, it keeps you away from connecting with others. It deals with that cancer that will grow, and you're dealing with parasites that are just taking over your body, keeping you from being healthy and connecting with nature and the world and healthy connections with others. That's what it does. And these are the issues that we see. It goes beyond just eating healthy. You got to be mindful as well. There's that mental aspect. This is critical. If I can explain it any better, I'll make other videos on this, but I've kind of touched on this, but I never really went into the detail about how those who are closest to us can have an effect that could be negative if we allow it to be. Because sadness is a real thing. If you see others that are struggling that you care about, you may become sad about it, and then that sadness will turn to lust. That's sad, and then that it'll also lead to that laziness. Like, you don't have, what's the point? You want to find a sense of purpose. You can't allow these parasites to overtake you, and that's kind of the point I'm getting at here.